Good morning, everybody. It's Friday. You guys excited for today? We're just joking how some people look at Fridays like the end of the week and they're on checking out. But for you guys, this is your free time to start catching up and getting stuff done if you're behind, which should be exciting for you. Today, day 19, we're talking about Dream 100, the Hook Story Offer, and a bunch of other cool things. But before we dive into that, I got a couple of things I want to step back to kind of touch base on from yesterday. Obviously, there are a lot of questions and concerns and comments and things from yesterday, so I want to kind of address a few of the things that I saw. One of them made me laugh, and honestly, it's how I know that some of you guys aren't doing your homework. Someone said, Russell, you told us to do a Facebook Live telling our Epiphany Bridge story, driving to our funnel, but we haven't got our funnel live yet. What should we do? I said, well, you should go back to yesterday's homework and finish it because on Wednesday, you got your funnel live if you follow the instructions. So you're telling on yourself when you say things like that. It means you're not actually following the steps. All right? So I know now who's doing the homework and who's not. Now, I know some of you guys didn't have a chance or haven't finished getting your offer and your product put together. If that's the case, that's okay. Still record the video on your phone and then go get it done. This weekend is your time to get the funnel done, turn it on live. If you're still if you don't know how to do that or what pieces you're missing, go back to Wednesday's homework. Wednesday, we have a whole bunch of videos from Jamie showing you how to connect every single step, every single piece inside the funnel. Okay, that's number one. Number two question, one of my friends actually who's going through the challenge right now asked, and it was a great question. He said, well, Russell, I don't know which story to tell. He's like, it could be a lot of different stories. Like, which one should I tell? And he does rehab for athletes and helps them get back so they can start competing again quickly. And I said, well, it depends. Like, there's probably a lot of stories. I said, what's your personal story? Like, did you go through injury? Did you have to go through rehab? Like, is that the origin story? I said, or did you have a client that you worked with and you had a chance to take him through this process and that's the origin story? And he said, well, both those are true. He's like, I have my own story over here. I've had stories with dozens and dozens of different clients, hundreds of different clients going through this process. He's like, I also have it for my daughters. I have it for my kids, for other people. He's like, I have all these stories. Which one do I use? And what I told him is the same thing I'm going to tell you guys, because my guess is you don't have just one story. If you've watched me over the last 19 days, you probably noticed I haven't told one origin story. I probably told, 40, 50 of them, right? Okay, so the reality is pick one and then do it because you're going to be doing all of them eventually. This is not a one-time exercise. Okay, if you've noticed, I've been now publishing, I'm on my 19th year in this business. 19 years. I think it's been like 8 years I've done my podcast. I think I'm at 700 or 800 episodes. I've been writing emails for 18 years. I've been publishing. I've been speaking on stage. I've told hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stories from me, from my background, from my clients' backgrounds, from people I care about, from stories that I've heard. Like, the key for you guys is to start getting better at telling stories. It's not like I got to master this one. It's like, no, like you need to be doing this a lot, okay? How many of you guys have heard me tell my potato gun story more than once, more than twice, more than a dozen, more than 100, more than 1,000? Notice my hand's still up because I've literally told this story more than 1,000 times, okay? But I keep telling it because what happens is that you're going to get bored of your story far before your audience ever does. And you got to become consistent at doing it and saying it. Okay, and so this was an experiment for you to test an origin story about how you create your framework. Okay, but it's not the last one. In fact, most of you guys, I'd recommend at least once a week going live and telling another story. Okay, I talked about how Kaylin Poland did, which she grabbed other people that had gone through her programs and brought them on and interviewed them about their origin story. This whole world, marketing, business, creating your movement, is all based around story. And so it's something that you need to learn and you need to master. Yesterday's activity was not a one-time, like, here's the story structure you're going to do once and then never do it again, right? With sales video, you create it once and it's there and you don't touch it again. But for your marketing, you're telling stories over and 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 over again, okay? And so it's something to start learning and becoming consistent at. And so instead of thinking, like, what's the one story? It's like, cool, I got a dozen, I got 5 dozen. Or if you only have one, it's like, hey, how do I create more stories? I need to go find somebody that I can serve. Like, who can I help? Who can I give my framework to so I can create an experience for them so I have their story so I can share it, right? The more of those you find, the more successful you're going to be. So I want to kind of share those two things before we got deep into today. And I hope you guys enjoyed yesterday. Story is the foundation to all of this stuff. Okay. In fact, we always call it story selling, right? Not storytelling or story selling. Like, if you really want to sell things, you have to become really good at telling stories. And the better you become at that skill set, the more money you're going to make. That's it. I remember the first time I ever taught about story selling was at one of my inner circle meetings, before we had this room here, actually, before we had this office, and we were in a hotel room, and I was teaching some principles, I can't remember, and I remember Dave Woodward was in the back of the audience, and we'd been talking about story earlier, and I was doing like a 2 or 3 hour presentation for the inner circle, and he had a little tally sheet, and he was tallying how many stories I told. I didn't know he was doing this. He's tallying it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, and he's tallying them, and I was about 15 minutes in this presentation, and I started talking about story selling, and talked about how people need to start learning it, start whatever, and Dave raised his hand And he kind of smiled, and I said, yeah. He said, just so you guys know, he's like, I've been keeping track of how many stories Russell has told so far in the first hour of this presentation. He's like, who can guess? And people were like, 2, 8, 13. I remember Dave was like, 57, almost one per minute. And I was like, holy crap, I had no idea it was that many. I didn't even know that, right? But that's what Dave told me. I was like, this is amazing. Okay, right now we are 4 minutes into today's training. How many stories have I told so far already? Go back and count them, you guys. We're probably 3 or 4 deep already, okay? So understand that getting good at telling stories and telling them over and over and over again is going to be the key to you having success in this game, all right? Okay, so day 19. Before I introduce day 19, I need to introduce my new friend. This is my new friend. You may remember my old friend, the paper whiteboard. We got this yesterday, and I was kind of playing with experimenting. So today I'm going to be doing training on this. This is kind of like a paper whiteboard, except for it's not paper, and I'm really excited. So I'll probably mess up once or twice as I'm doing it, but I'm going to be doodling today on this, which is really exciting, okay? Okay, so Dream 100. I want to start there, but before we start there, I want to talk about what we've been talking about for the last 19 days, okay? We've talked a lot about this, right? Here is your dream customer. This is the person that you have been called to serve, right? This is your who. Who have you been called to serve, right? We've talked a lot about this. Who is that person? Who is the group of people I've been called to serve? That I've got unique talents or abilities or skill sets or things that I've learned that I can help these people, right? The second question we talked about, this whole thing is what is the result that they are looking for, right? They're trying to get up here. So what is the result? What is the result that they're looking for? Man, check this out. If I mess up on this whiteboard, I just erase it with my fingers. How cool is that? So exciting. Anyway, so what is the result that they're looking for, right? And this is what everything we've been talking about this entire One Funnel Away challenge, right? There's this who that I'm called to serve. Here's the result. What's the framework I need to build along the way to get them to that process, right? So now that we've kind of built the framework, we know the result, we know what we've been doing with people, right? This is what your funnel and your product and the offer and the frameworks, everything you've been creating is here to give these people the result. Now we're coming back to arguably the most important part of marketing and business is this. Who is your dream customer? Okay? That's what we're going to be talking about now. Who is our dream customer? Who is the person we've been called to serve? Okay? Now, when I start coming into traffic, trying to figure out how do I drive traffic, I start looking at this person and I got to start asking myself some questions, okay? So the first question that I'm going to ask is the one we just talked about, right? Is who. So who is that person? And I want you guys to really think about that at a deeper level. A lot of times we're like, oh, my dream customers are women, or they're men, or they're females from age 36 to 22, whatever. I get people tell me that all the time and ask who their dream customers. I'm like, no. That's so data analytical. I'm not a data guy. I'm a feeling guy. Who is that person? What are their pains? What are their frustrations? What are the things they struggle with in life? Right? I talked about it on one of the earlier days that my guess is for a lot of you guys, this dream customer was probably you 5 years ago, right? Before you got this big result and you figured out the answer to it, you were probably struggling with the same thing, am I right? And so now you're looking back saying, I know how to help that person. That's why I created this product, this service, this framework, this thing is to help this person. You're coming back from the result and saying, hey, I know the path. I've got the map to get you here, right? So I want you to get very clear on who is that dream customer, because the better you understand who that dream customer is, the easier step number 2 is going to be. Okay, step number 2, after you know who the dream customer is, the second question is where? Where are those people congregating? Okay, now I use the word congregation on purpose. When you hear the word congregation, what's the thing you typically think of? Okay, so for most of us, when you hear the word congregation, you think of a church, right? And you think about churches, every single week, all the people who have similar beliefs and values, they congregate together, right? So all the Baptists congregate at the Baptist church, the Muslims are the Muslim church, the Mormons are the Mormon church, the Catholics are the Catholic church, and they gather together based on similar beliefs and values, right? Now, if I was going to sell something to Baptists, where would I go look for these people? Okay? I'd be like, every single Sunday, there's 5,000 of them grouping together in one spot. They're all right there, right? If I was going to sell something, I'd go to that congregation because there's 5,000 people there who have similar beliefs and values. Okay, now, real quick, time out. I'm not teaching you guys to go sell things at churches. That's not my purpose of this. But I want you to understand the conceptualization of congregations, people congregating together. Okay, that is the power of the internet. Okay, I think about back when I was in high school. I was a wrestler, and I was excited about wrestling, and there was a bunch of wrestlers in my school, but there was just a small group of us, and there was no way to get to us, right? Someone couldn't run a TV ad trying to sell a wrestling book and hopefully target the 30 kids in every single high school to actually wrestle. That would have cost too much money. Right? And I think about other things, like I remember back in high school, there was a group of people who were excited about Magic the Gathering, people that were excited about music, and there were all these little like groups of people, but they're so far congregated, they're so far distant, it was impossible to target them. And so the only people that made money back in the day were people who, their products were mass appeal, right? Like aspirin, where everybody needed it, right? Or fast food, where everybody needed it, where it was hard to go and target these niches. Okay, now the power of the internet is the internet's connected us all together. And if you look at how all of us connect, we connect together based on similar beliefs and values, right? We congregate together. So think about this, like all of the people who are interested in marketing are all hanging out in the same marketing groups, right? People interested in photography are hanging out in photography groups and forums and email lists and things like that, right? And there's all these different congregations, right? There's always, I look at these like congregations, there's these groups of people that are all congregated together, okay? And so this is a whole bunch of people here inside this congregation. Right? There's a bunch of people here in this side congregation. And there's a bunch of people here. Okay, I think the first time I really actually realized this, sorry, this is too much fun to do. The first time I really started realizing this when I was wrestling, I was at Boise State wrestling. And I remember that student athletes don't have the best, I don't know, we all kind of struggled in school. And so the way that it worked is most student athletes, especially the wrestling team, we had 2 hours a night of forced study hall. We had to do because otherwise most of us wouldn't pass our classes. And so we go to study hall. I remember walking to study hall after practice. I walk in there and literally there's like 30 wrestlers, all the wrestling teams in there. And we're all sitting down to go work on our homework. We're all kind of like bummed out. And I remember as I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna do my homework. Before I go to homework, I'm gonna go like see what all the wrestlers are talking about. And there was a site at the time, it's called themat.com. And this was the place that all the wrestlers in the world congregated together. So I went on themat.com and there's all these discussions and all these things happening. I was so excited, right? And I'm jumping into conversations about this person and the match coming up and how to, the technique and how to do this move. And I'm in all these different conversations with people from all around the world. Right? And I'm having so much fun in here. And, 10 minutes goes to 30 to an hour. And by that time, I was like, I need to do my homework. I was like, well, before I go homework, I'm going to go to the bathroom. So I get up to go to the bathroom. I start walking out. And as I'm walking up and down the aisles, I'm looking at all my teammates. And I'm noticing that every single one of them was also on themat.com. And they were all in the same conversations. I was like, how interesting. I was like, everybody here at my school, we're all congregated on this one site, right? It was themat.com. That was the site at the time. And everybody's congregated. And I was like, what's interesting is this is here at Boise State, but I'm sure the same things are true in Nebraska and Iowa and Minnesota and all the other schools, plus all the high schools, plus all the kids in Europe and other countries, everybody in the world who cared about wrestling, so all the who's were all congregated together every single night on this one site. Isn't that amazing? So I have to go look for, like, where's the wrestlers at? I can't find them. They're all in one spot right here every single night talking about wrestling. Okay? They're all congregating together. Now, if I'm selling a wrestling product, where am I going to go sell it? I can go buy an ad on TV or radio ads or throw up some Facebook ads, or I can say, okay, well, they're all hanging out here. Let me come, and all I'm going to do, okay, here's me right here. I'm going to throw my fishing pole out there and throw a hook because I know that all of the people are here. They're all congregated together. It's like shooting fish in a barrel, right? So it's true in wrestling, but it's true in every market, just so you're aware, okay? Every market, people are already self-congregating themselves together. Okay, a lot of times people come to me, Russell, you wrote a book on traffic. You wrote the Traffic Secrets book. Like, how do I create traffic? How do I generate traffic in my business? I'm like, the wrong question. Your job is not to generate traffic, not to create traffic. Okay? Traffic's already there. It's already happening. Your people are already going to a place, right? Traffic is like a stream of water. Okay? It's happening all the time. So your job is not to create it. Your job is to say, where's the stream? Here's the stream of water. I've got an offer. Let me jump out in front of it and boom, get some of that traffic coming to me. That's your job. Okay, identify where the traffic's already at and then step in front of it. Okay, so these are the things I want to shift your mindset in as you're starting getting into this. Okay, because we're spending a lot of time next week in traffic. Like, you have to start understanding this is how we do it. We figure out, number one, who's our dream customer? Number two is where are they congregating? Okay, and if I can find these different congregations, that's the key, right? And so you start looking at this, like, where are these congregations? Like, there's a congregation on Facebook, right? People are hanging out on Facebook. Okay, but specifically, they're hanging out on certain pages, right? Different fan pages and stuff, okay? They're hanging out on YouTube, but what channels do they follow? They're hanging out they're listening to podcasts, but what people's podcasts they listen to? And we start looking at that, okay? So that's kind of the first step here. This is the foundation of getting traffic. And the better you understand this, the better you understand your who, the better you're going to be able to find their where. Now, again, for most of you guys, if this who is you 5 years ago, it's easy to start saying, well, where was I hanging out when I was trying to learn this game? Right? When I launched ClickFunnels, it wasn't hard for me to get traction and get traffic because the dream customer was me 5 years ago. So I was just like, okay, well, 5 years ago, where was I trying to get the answers to my questions? Okay, I went here, I went here, I went here. These are the newsletters I subscribe to. Here's the podcasts I listen to. Here's all the different pieces. In a very, very short period of time, I was like, I know exactly where my dream customers are. And then we just targeted those areas, extracted the customers, brought them to ClickFunnels, and the rest is history. Okay? So that's step number one, the who and the where. All right, now check this out. I can move it to the next page. Oh my gosh, this is like the greatest thing since paper. Okay, so that's step number one. Step number two, some of you guys have heard me talk about this before. This is called the Dream 100. Okay, so the Dream 100, to really get in deep into this, the question you have to ask yourself is, who has already congregated my dream customers? Okay, that's the powerful thing about the internet is there's these congregations, but typically there's a leader of each congregation, right? If I have a fan page with 1 million followers, I'm the leader of that fan page, right? They're all following me. There's 1 million people here who are my dream customers, and so who's the person that congregated them? Okay, that's kind of the concept I want to talk about. Now, when I first heard about Dream 100, I learned it from a guy named Chet Holmes, who was one of my friends. He passed away a few years ago, and he wrote a really good book called The Ultimate Sales Machine. In that book, I can't remember chapter 6 or 7, he talked about this concept of the Dream 100. And he was using it differently than I was, though. He was talking about when he got a job for Charlie Munger, who is a billionaire, and he had a magazine. He had a bunch of companies, but Chet came in and started running his magazine. At the time, their magazine was the worst in their industry, the least sales out of everything. And so Chet came in. They're like, "Hey, you need to make this magazine and increase the sales." So he started looking. He's like, "Okay, our advertising department is going out to get advertisers, and they're going after over like 2,000 or 3,000 different potential advertisers, and they're marketing to all these people. And because of that, nothing's really happening." And Chet went back and said, okay, well, let's look at the industry data. And he found out that of all the different potential advertisers in the industry, most of the money came from just a handful of people, right? And so we said, okay, instead of us trying to market to 2,000 or 3,000, 4,000 people, let's just find our dream customers, our dream 100, let's find those people, and let's aggressively market to them. So instead of marketing everybody, they found just 100 people, and they made a list and said, okay, here's our 100 people, let's start advertising. And so what he did is he would go and every week he'd send in something in the mail, every single week, and then the next week he'd call him on the phone. The next week he'd send something, big lumpy thing in the mail. Next week he'd call him on the phone. He'd do that consistently over and over and over again. Within the first 6 months, they didn't land any clients. And this whole team was frustrated that this isn't working. He said, no, we have to be consistent. Like, we have to continue to target our Dream 100. Like, but there's all these other companies we go after. They said, no, we're going to focus on our Dream 100. And he kept doing that, and eventually he landed, I think Xerox was the first company landed, and another one. And within like a year and a half, 2-year period of time, they went from being the bottom of their industry in sales to becoming the top. It was focused on this concept, like figuring out who are the dream customers and then just focusing and targeting them. I heard that story, I was like, that's cool, but how do I apply that to my business? And then in the book, he tells another story where he wrote a screenplay he was really excited for. He's like, I wrote a screenplay for this movie. I wanted to create it. And he's like, but I don't know anyone in Hollywood. Like, how do I get the screenplay out to the world? And about the time he saw a magazine that said, like, the top 100 filmmakers in Hollywood or something like that, he found the magazine that said that. And he got the magazine. He's like, this is my Dream 100. So he took the list of all the people, like all the producers, the actors, all the people who could make his film become a dream, could actually turn his dream into an actual film. He took those people, made a list, and then he took his screenplay, and he mailed it to all 100 people. Then he sat there and called all 100 people. And he kept doing like marketing aggressively to these 100 people, and eventually got a hold of, I think it was Leanne Rimes. She read the script, she loved it. They signed on, they produced a movie, they did a bunch of stuff, and it was all coming back to the same Dream 100 concept. So I'm reading this in the book, and I'm freaking out. Like, this is amazing. I was like, how does this work for internet nerds like me? There's got to be a way, right? And I was thinking at the time I was selling books and CDs. I'm like, there's no way I can spend a ton of money targeting one customer because the product they're buying is like $10, right? I'm like, how's this going to work? And then all of a sudden I had the epiphany. I was like, wait a minute. Instead of me targeting my actual customers, who are the people that have already congregated my dream customers, right? If I come back here to this screen right here, let's say this right here is a podcast, right? And this podcast has 100,000 listeners. Who's the person that owns that podcast? What if I spend time marketing to that person, and if they say yes, and they introduce everyone on the podcast, I might get 100 or 1,000 sales or more. And that would give me the idea. So we started coming back and started saying, okay, who is our Dream 100? And I've been doing this now for, probably 15 years. But one of the more recent times I did this was when we launched the .com Secrets book, the very first book I ever wrote, right? And I came back to this Dream 100 concept and said, okay, here's what we're going to do. So the first thing I did is, okay, let's look at Facebook. Who are all the people on Facebook who have fan pages that are big, or they've got Facebook groups that are big that have my dream customers inside of them, right? Who are those people? And we started making lists. I said, okay, well, there's so-and-so, and then there's so-and-so. And I tried to list as many as I could, and I think I found like 50 or 60 different people who had already congregated my dream customers. Okay, so I had that list on Facebook. I said, cool. Then I went to, didn't have Instagram back. I was on Instagram back then, so I didn't do that. The next one for me was podcast, right? So here's my little podcast. That says podcast. Let's put a P, okay? So then I went to podcasts, opened up my podcast app on my phone, right? And podcasting, you can find different categories. So I went to the categories, I went to business, and it shows me the top 200 business podcasts. I'm like, sweet. I got my dream 200 podcasts already done. So I was like, listed out all these people. I had 200 podcasters, boom. And I did the same thing over here on YouTube. Like, who on YouTube already has the big channels that my dream customers are already watching? And I made a list of all the YouTube people, right? And I started doing this in many different platforms as I could find. And then I said, okay, well, these people have my customers. Like, they all have my dream customers. If any of these people promoted, that would be huge, right? So I said, I'm going to do a Dream 100 campaign to the people who have already congregated my dream customers, okay? And so I started contacting them. And remember, I sent a copy of the .com Secrets book to all of them. I think at the time, I had my Dream 100 list was like 400 and something people, right? So I sent a .com Secrets book to all 400 of them. And the next week, I sent out a letter to all of them. And next week, I tried to call as many as I could. Next week, I sent out another thing. I was trying to market aggressively to the people who already had congregated my dream customers. And within a couple weeks, all of a sudden, I remember one day, I get an email back from this person right here. Whoosh. He was one of my podcast Dream 100s. Some of you guys probably heard of him. His name's John Lee Dumas, JLD, and he has a podcast called Entrepreneur on Fire. Now, I'd never met JLD before, didn't know who he was. I'd listened to his podcast, so that was about it. He'd gotten the book in the mail. He got it. He read it. He was like, oh my gosh, this book's actually really, really cool. He contacted me back, said, Russell, I love your book. I would love to promote it to my podcast list, but also to my email list. And I was like, okay. And so when we launched the book, he went there and did a podcast episode with me, went out to his millions of listeners. He sent out 3 or 4 emails to list selling the book, and he ended up selling over 1,000 copies of the book himself, okay? One of my Dream 100. And that was just one person, okay? From that, I got different people on Facebook who said yes, and said yes, and said yes, and said yes. There were other podcasters who said yes, a couple people on YouTube that said yes. And not everyone said yes. In fact, the majority of them didn't say yes, but a percentage of them did. Okay, and they promoted the book, and we sold tons and tons and tons of our stuff. Okay, and that's the power. Now, there's 2 ways to really target your Dream 100. Okay, the first way is what I just shared with you guys. Where I find these people, I get to know them, I build relationships with them, and I try to work my way in. Okay, and so the first type of traffic here is called traffic that you earn. That you earn. Okay. So nice about this traffic, it doesn't cost you money up front, which is pretty cool, okay? And my little doodle here, it's not gonna be as cool as like the one you're gonna get because my head doodler guy actually made it awesome, right? But you get the point. There's my version of it, right? And so this kind of traffic here, I'm working my way in. Work my way in, okay? And so what happens is I'm going through my first goal, Dream 100, I'm going through this. And again, there's different platforms. You got TikTok, you got Clubhouse now, you got Google, you got all these things, right? So you're building out this list of all these different people, okay? My first goal is I want to try to work my way. Because if I get free traffic, I don't got to pay for it, which is amazing, right? I may pay affiliate commissions, but I'm not paying ahead of time. So I'm going there and say, okay, JLD, he's doing an interview with me, so I worked my way in there. Actually, hold on. How does undo work? We're still learning this. Yeah, okay. So JLD, he went and he let me work my way in, right? And this podcast let me work my way in. And this person sent an email to their list. And this person over here made a video about me on YouTube, right? So I'm working my way, and that's all free traffic, which is amazing, right? That's the first thing I'm focused on, how do we get free traffic, okay? The second way is that, again, the majority of these people will never respond back and never say yes, right? A good example is Tony Robbins was like number 1 on my Dream 100 list. And I've known Tony for, almost 15 years now. But like, my very first book came out, he wrote a quote in it, he read it, he wrote the quote, one of the quotes, but I didn't even have the guts to ask him to promote, and he's so busy, he doesn't promote things, and so he wasn't gonna promote, okay? And that's okay, because he may not have promoted my first book, he did promote my second book, which was so cool, but he didn't promote the first book, right? But that's okay, because at the same time, the one version is to go and work your way in. The second version is for the people who won't promote it for you. You can come back, and you can do what we call traffic you control, okay? Traffic I control. So here I earn the traffic, right? And here I'm controlling the traffic. Okay, this is where I use money. And so this one costs money, but this is where I'm going to buy my way in. Buy my way in. Okay? So what happens is like there's all these people who said yes that promote their way in. Let me change the color for this. Yeah, this is so cool. So then over here, I'm like, okay, well, here's Tony Robbins. He didn't promote it, but I can buy ads and say, show my ads to everybody who follows Tony Robbins. He's got 3.5 million people on his fan page. His people want to buy my stuff, so I can tell Facebook or Instagram or YouTube and say, okay, I could basically say, I'm going to pay to show my ad to all the Tony Robbins people. I'm going to pay to show it here. I'm going to buy ads on the Mixergy podcast because he didn't promote the book, but he's got a good podcast. I'm going to buy ads and I'm going to promote it, right? And so there's all these other things you can do here where you can buy your way in as well. Okay? And so both of these things are powerful. Both of them are important. Some people don't have the finances up front to go and to buy traffic. And that's totally understandable, right? I didn't buy my first paid ad in my company. I didn't run for about 12 years. Okay? For the first 12 years of my business, I focused 100% on this kind of traffic. Okay? Today, most of my traffic comes from here. Okay? So a lot of times it's like, well, I have more time than money, so let me spend more time here building relationships, getting to know people, right? Some of you guys are like, I have no time, I just got money, you're going to do this. And the honest reality is you want to do a hybrid of both. Okay? And the coolest thing, based on what I've been teaching you guys on funnels, right? If you build your funnel correctly the right way, what will happen is you can buy ads, but you can still be profitable. Where you may spend, $20 on an ad to sell your $7 report, but because someone buys the order form bump and the upsell and the downsell, you may make $30 or $40. Okay, and so if you do it correctly, you can still buy ads and be profitable as well. And we're not going to get too deep in that today. I just want to kind of help you guys understand this. So when I look at traffic, this is what I do. If you've read the Traffic Seekers book, this is the whole first section of the Traffic Seekers book is helping you understand this, right? Building out your Dream 100 list, figuring out who those people are. How do we earn our traffic? How do we work our way into these relationships? How do we buy our way in, okay? But that's the first key. Okay, so the first part of your homework assignment is going to be, there's two parts on this. The first part of your homework assignment today is going to be for you to actually build out your Dream 100 list. You're going to be out looking on Facebook and say, okay, on Facebook, who are all the people who have already congregated my dream customers? And you're going to make a list. Okay, and then podcasts, who are all the podcasters that already have my dream customers? You're going to make a list there. Who are the YouTubers and all these things? And we're going to be focusing on building out those lists of people. Okay, and those are the people that you're going to start targeting, becoming friends with, getting to know, trying to build a relationship, sending stuff in the mail, calling them on the phone, because any one of those people can unlock, like you say, JLD unlocked thousands of sales for me. One person equals thousands of sales, right? How many of you guys love to have 1,000 sales of your $7 offer tomorrow? Yeah, it'd be amazing, right? It comes from this. Okay, it takes time. It takes a little time to build relationships, but it's not hard, right? Especially with podcasters. Podcasters are always looking for people to interview. Okay, so it's easy to get into these guys and say, hey, I've got my framework over here where I teach people how to blah, 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 blah. I'd love to come on your show and teach people my 7-step system for doing blah. And at the end of it, we can offer this framework and I'll pay you 100% commission or whatever it is, right? And now all of a sudden, that's an easy way to get in and get on a show. And you can start getting interviewed in different people's podcasts. And all of a sudden now you're like on a live radio show in front of thousands of people that fast, okay? And so that's kind of the game. This is the foundation to traffic right here. Does that make sense? Who's already congregated my dream customers? How do I earn my way in? And then how do I buy my way in? Okay, so the last framework I want to talk about today, and this is one that I talk about in every single one of my books. It's funny though, I didn't know this concept until I was writing the Traffic Seekers book. And I remember when I was working on some projects and some doodles and stuff, and also I mapped out this thing, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the key to everything. And I started freaking out. I was telling myself out. The next morning, I woke up early. I have a garage gym, went to work out, and Dave Woodward was there, and James P. Frill was there, and they're working out. I was like, you guys, I figured out the secret. They're like, to what? I'm like, to everything. And so I sat down and I explained this to them, and they were freaking out. I was freaking out. And now I put it in the Traffic Seekers book, and then when I rewrote the .com Secrets and rewrote the Expert Seekers book, I weaved these. There's a chapter in all 3 books about this because it is the key to everything we're doing. Okay? And so the key, the framework I want to show you guys is called Hook, Story, Offer. My guess is I've talked about so much, you guys have probably heard me talk about it at this point. But I want to go through because it ties back into all this traffic stuff we're going to be talking about. Okay, so Hook, Story, Offer. So I'm going to come back here. So these are fish hooks, right? You already knew that, though. You could tell. So these are hooks. Hook. Over here we've got... Here we've got story. I bet you $50, half of you guys try to buy one of these boards tonight. I showed on Insta stories yesterday and I had everybody I know begging me to know where I got this thing. So I'll send you my affiliate link soon and then you guys can I'm just joking, kind of. Okay, so there's story, right? And then the third phase here is the offer. What's the thing that you are actually selling? Okay, now we spent a lot of time in this challenge talking about the offer, right? You guys have created offers. Okay, yesterday we talked a lot about story, right? You got the story. And then the last piece here then are the hooks. And so I want to share this principle because as you start looking at your funnel, you start looking at how you start to drive traffic, everything comes back to this principle of hook, story, offer. Okay? My job as a marketer is to throw out hooks to get somebody's attention. Okay? If I go back 2 screens ago, right? I showed you guys this picture right here. Here is a congregation of my dream customers. My job is to throw these hooks out into the water, okay? So if I know here's 10,000 people that are wrestlers I want to target with my new wrestling product, right? And they're all in this Facebook group, my job is to go throw hooks out there to grab their attention, right? So what is a hook? A hook could be a lot of things. Okay, a hook could be a headline, hook could be an image, hook could be a video, hook could be all these different things. Okay, my story is a hook. Like the way I tell my story, like the fact that I'm here, like you guys will notice now that I got this cool whiteboard, I'm gonna be doing ads of me in front of here because like the picture, like the vision of this, like this is a hook. Like hooks are everything at your disposal to grab someone's attention and to stop them from scrolling. I always think about my dream customers. They're sitting at home, they're bored out of their mind, they're on their couch, they're sliding through Facebook or Instagram just like this. And your job is to get them so that when they're scrolling through or bored out of their mind, you grab their attention like, whoa, what was that? Okay, so it's a split second thing. Okay, so it's the headline, it's the image, it's the background, it's like wherever you're at. Okay, you notice I don't do videos on a white background like, hey, this is Russell, buy my stuff. Like I'll go find something crazy in the background like Batman, and I'll be like, hey, what's up, this is Batman. So I'm trying to grab a hook to get your attention. Right? So the first step in this process is what's the hook to grab someone's attention, okay? And now, there's no value in the hook by itself, right? The only value of the hook is to get their attention just long enough, then you can come back and you can tell them your story, okay? Okay, they're scrolling, they're like, what is that? And boom, it stops them, it hooks them real quick. They're like, what is it? They click play, and boom, now you got their attention just for a moment. And this is where your story comes in, right? You tell the story in the right way. The story's job is to increase the perceived value of the thing that you're going to sell. Okay, so I tell the story, it's going to grab their attention, it's going to make them connect with me, a whole bunch of things like we talked about yesterday, and then increases the perceived value of the actual offer. And then I make the offer, and then someone's going to buy it from there. Okay, hook, story, offer, hook, story, offer. In the Traffic Seekers book, I told like a semi-fictional story. And semi-fictional, I said, because it actually is true and happened a million times, but I didn't know the exact details. But this is the story I told. There was a woman who came home from work. She'd been working with her kids all day. She was working full time. She was with her kids, and she was tired. And when she got her kids down to bed, and she had like a moment of free time for herself, she sat on the couch, grabbed her phone out, and she's like, I just need to break away from reality for a second. She starts swiping through, and she's swiping through. And all of a sudden, she sees this picture of a girl with blonde hair standing like this, and she's peed her pants in front of everybody. And she's like, whoa, like, what is this, right? And it hooked her for a second. She's like, what is that? And she's like, she pee her pants? Like, what is it? And so she's like, I have to see what's happening. And she clicks play on this video, right? And all of a sudden, Natalie Hodson pops up and says, hey, my name's Natalie Hodson, and just like many women, I've had 2 kids. I had 2 10-pound babies, and after I had these babies, obviously a lot of things changed down there. And she said, one day I was, after my second baby came, I was doing a video. I was live on Facebook. I was teaching people some fitness and exercises, and in the middle of me going live, streaming to the world, I peed my pants, and I can't stop it. And I'm live, and we're doing these exercises, and I'm wearing gray shorts, and this is the picture. She's like, and when it was done, I was humiliated. I was so embarrassed. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to die. I wanted to delete the video. I just wanted to hide in a hole. And people were commenting about like, I peed my pants, freaking out. And this lady's watching. It's like, what in the world? And first she's like, this is amazing. I can't believe this happened. And then all of a sudden she's like, I've experienced this before. I went to jump on the trampoline with my kids the other day, and I had to stop because like I was going to pee my pants. And there's multiple times in my life where I haven't been able to do what I wanted to do. I couldn't be the mom I wanted to show up as because of this exact same problem. So I understand Natalie, and I have empathy with her. And then Natalie goes on in her story, and she says, after having this problem, I was really embarrassed, and I called a friend who's a doctor who actually specialized in this, and I said, how does this work? Like, how can I make it so that this doesn't happen to me again? And my friend who's a doctor came and gave me a bunch of exercises and some bunch of protocols, and spent the next month or 2 with me working through these things. And by the time it was done, I got to a spot where I don't pee my pants anymore. I can jump on the trampoline with my kids, and it's amazing. It's one of the greatest things in the world. And it's changed my life. Now, I had to pay this doctor a lot of money to have them personally coach me, but after it was done, I asked them if I could take the things I learned from them and put them into an actual ebook, an actual framework. And luckily for me and for you and for everybody, they said yes. And so I created this ebook that goes through all the different exercises, all the things I did at home to be able to stop this so I don't have to pee my pants anymore. And it changed my life forever. And this framework, this thing I created is done. It's in ebook format, and I want to give you a copy of it today. Okay, now this ebook costs $37. Got to pay the doctor for the rights and things like that. But I'd love to give you a copy of this ebook if you'd like to, because it gives you the framework that changed my life. Click on the button down below. And the person's like, oh my gosh. They click on the button, they go over, and they're like, I have to have this, right? They see the offer, they buy it. Okay, hook, story, offer. So you see this happen, okay? The lady sits on the couch, she's scrolling, boom, hook grabs her attention. The story connects with her and then increases the perceived value, and then the offer, just no-brainer at that point, okay? Now, I say this is fictional because I don't know the exact story of the lady who did this, but I do know that Natalie Hodson sat in this room a couple years ago when she was struggling with this business. She had this new ebook idea. After she left this thing, we talked to this concept, hook, story, offer. She went back home. She launched this thing. And in 4 months, she sold over 50,000 copies of her $37 ebook. Now, what's crazy is Natalie did not have an upsell or a downsell or any funnel at all. All she had was a $37 ebook. And in 4 months, she hit the 2 Comma Club. Okay? All because she had a really good hook, told a good story, and a good offer. Okay? So I want to share that because this is the key fundamentals of all marketing. Okay? When you start looking at your entire funnel, right? If I come back here, and let's say this is Facebook, right? Okay? And then from here, there's your landing page, right? Where they're gonna opt in and give you the email address. And here is your sales video where you're selling your thing, right? And then here is your OTO number 1, and here's OTO number 2, right? And here's your thank you page. Okay? You look at this, I want you to understand that hook, story, offer is present in every single step of this message. In fact, it's funny, people will come to me and they're like, hey, Russell, I want to hire you to consult me. And I'm like, well, I'm like the most expensive person on earth. No. And they're like, please, please, please. I'm like, hey, it's $100,000 a day. They're like, sweet, I'm going to do it. Okay? And they come in and they're like waiting for me to like show them some magic trick. And it's like the funniest thing. So I'm going to show you guys what happens in my $100,000 a day consulting. Okay? Because then you guys can do what I do. So they come to me like, this is my funnel. It's not working. I was like, okay, well, it's not working because it's either the hook, the story, the offer. But let's figure out what it is. I said, okay, show me your ad. So they show me the ad right here. I'm like, hey, how's the ad doing? Right? And they're like, well, it's doing okay. I'm like, okay, well, I'm looking at it. I'm not sure if it's either the hook, the story, or the offer. One of these things isn't right. Which one do you think it is? And they're like, the hook's not very good, is it? I'm like, no. Like, okay, try another hook. Okay. And they try that. Okay? And so that's the first step, is hook, story, offer, right? And so again, that's present in all 3 of these, right? Then we go to the landing page. It's like the landing page is doing good. It's converting. Cool. We're not going to touch it. Sales page here. How's it doing? It's not doing that good. Well, why not? Let me look at it. We look at it. Okay, something's wrong here. I'm not sure what it is. My guess is either the hook, the story, or the offer. Which one do you think it is? And they're like, well, I think the hook's good, but I didn't tell the story very good. I didn't increase the value of the offer. That's probably the story, right? I'm like, oh, let's try it. Let's make a new video. Let's try retelling the story differently, right? And they try that. And then the OTO, okay, hook's right. Well, the hook's good, the story's good, but like the offer kind of sucks. Like, hey, let's fix the offer. Let's make a better offer. Okay? And that's all we do. We literally go from page to page to page to page to page. We look at each page. What's hook, story, offer? 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 And we look at which one's broken. Okay? We make the hook a little better, make the story a little better, make the offer a little better. And by doing that, usually 1 or 2 times, your funnel goes from being to like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Okay? And so I wanted to explain this to you guys because this is like the key to marketing. This is the key to like, if your funnel's not working, if your funnel flops, whatever that is, it always comes back to this, your hook, story, or offer. It's always one of those 3 things. Okay? Now this is true, again, from the advertising standpoint, from the landing page, sales page, everything else here inside the funnel. Okay? I also want to show this to you because when you're coming back here and you're like, I want to get on people's podcasts. I want to get on people's YouTube channels. I want people to email them for me, right? Just you contacting them initially comes down to the same thing. You have to understand, hook, story, offer. How are you going to get them to actually read your email? What's the story you're going to tell them? What's the offer? Like, why should they put you on their podcast? They probably get hit up by 1,000 people a day. Like, what makes your offer better? Right? What's your hook? What's your story, offer? How do you get in the door here? Okay? If you do get a chance where you're actually on the thing and you're getting interviewed, right? What's the hook you're leading with? That's going to get somebody to actually listen to the podcast. Just because you're on someone's podcast doesn't mean people are going to listen. I look at a lot of podcasts, and if the headline is not good, I just skip through until I find one that looks good. I got to hook them to get the listeners to actually listen. When I'm on the podcast, what's the story I'm telling? I need to tell an amazing story that increases the perceived value of the thing that I'm trying to sell. Otherwise, what's the point of me even doing this? Right? At the end of the podcast, what's the offer? Okay? I love my free books, and I'm on a podcast. It's really easy for me to give them a really good hook, tell them an amazing story, and like, hey, if you want to learn more about this, go get a free copy of my book at trafficsecrets.com. It's an amazing offer, right? So hook, story, offers in my podcast interview. Hook, story, offers in my Facebook ads. Hook, story, offers in my Instagram ads. Hook, story, like it's in all these different things. Okay? So you have to understand understanding hook, story, offer will amplify everything else you do. Amplify your funnel, amplify your advertising, amplify your ability to contact your Dream 100. It's something you'll use over and over and over and over and over again. Okay? So I wanted to kind of get that out there because it's going to be key to you guys having success. All right? Whew. So we are at 40 minutes in. I got my 2 core frameworks I want to share with you guys today in there. So I'm going to have my team pull up the one-pager so you can see what you guys are going to be doing today and throughout this weekend, okay? Obviously this weekend, if you haven't finished your funnel, we need to finish your funnel. Get your content created, plug it in, go through the sales funnel, connect all the pieces, let's get it done and get it live and get it in there, okay? Number 2 then is now we're going to start focusing on this because Rachel's coming back on Monday and she's going to be focusing on traffic, right? And this is the foundations of traffic. You need to have these things in place. It's going to amplify everything else you're doing. If you don't have it, then it's going to be a little bit harder. So make sure this weekend you spend some time, okay? All right, so the first thing here, you can come down and watch the video for me talking about stuff, obviously. And then down here, you're going to go through the Dream 100 exercise, okay? So who are the Dream 100 on each platform? Now, I'm going to show you one of my shortcuts. A lot of people ask, like, where do I start with Dream 100? I actually typically start Dream 100 on Amazon. Okay, the first group I look at are actually authors, okay? The nice thing about authors, typically authors, if they're a good author, they usually have an email list. They usually have an Instagram following. They have a podcast. They have a YouTube. Like, they have a lot of things, right? Nowadays, it's crazy. If you're an author and you want to go and pitch your book to a publisher, publishers don't even look at your book nowadays. All they look at is your platform. They literally ask you, what's your platform? Like, that's the number one question that publishers ask nowadays. It's crazy. It didn't used to be that way. It used to be, how good's your book? Nowadays, it's like, no, we couldn't care less about how good your book is. Can you sell them when you get it done? Okay, so most authors and most markets have these platforms already. So I like cheating and starting on Amazon. So I go to Amazon, I type in the keywords for my business, and I start finding who are all the authors that have written books in my market. Okay, and that's where I start, because this is going to give me shortcuts to find a lot of other people. A lot of you guys are like, I don't know where to find my Dream 100 on Facebook or Instagram. So I start here. Okay, so go to Amazon, and who are all the authors who are already writing about the topic that you care about, who've already congregated your dream customers. That's where I start. And listen here as many as you can, 10, 20, 30, as many as you can find, put them in here in the board. Okay. And then from there, now I want you to start doing this platform specific, okay? I'd recommend doing Facebook. And the reason why I want to start Facebook is because Rachel, all the traffic stuff she's focusing on with you guys is Facebook. Facebook to this day, we buy ads everywhere, okay? You've probably seen them. If you've ever clicked on any of my things, you've seen me everywhere, right? We buy ads everywhere. To this day, Facebook is still the most profitable source for us, okay? The older people with money are still on Facebook, okay? Instagram's cool. These other places are cool, but like Facebook is where the dollars are at still today. Okay, love them or hate them, I don't really care. They're the ones who are going to be able to get you the right customers right now for most businesses. So I would focus on this. So who are your Dream 100 on Facebook? Now, by doing this, I'd say, who are all the pages that already have your dream customers? In fact, I don't know whose pages to even look for the authors. Okay, after you've got the author, let's come back to it and type into Facebook and like, hey, type in Robert Kiyosaki. Does he have a group? Oh my gosh, he's got 2 million people following him. You know, and putting in the authors in Facebook, you start finding all the people with big fan pages in Facebook. They're called pages now. They used to call them fan pages, and I'm still like, anyway, I still call them fan pages, but all the pages, right? The second thing is look at, besides pages, I'd also look at groups, right? Like the ClickFunnels group has 250,000 people in it, right? What are other groups in your market that have people already congregated together? Okay, and so when you go on Facebook, you can search for groups, search for like photography groups, weightlifting groups, potato gun groups, whatever your market is, search for groups and list those as well. Okay, so you have all the pages and the groups listed here. Okay, number 2, I'd go to podcasts, because podcast is such a great media for you to start learning how to tell your story. People who listen to podcasts generally have more money. In fact, check this out. I read a stat. I'll probably get the numbers wrong. It's in the Traffic Secrets book, but like the average person who listens to radio makes like I think like $40,000 to $50,000 a year is like the average salary of someone who listens to radio. The average podcast listener makes $120,000 a year. Okay, so the best buyers are going to be in podcasts. The numbers won't be as high as the other places, but the best buyers are here. Okay, it's the reason why I run a podcast, because the people with the most income listen to podcasts. Like it's the way it is, right? So finding podcasts. So podcasts are easy. Go to iTunes. Every podcast is in iTunes. Okay, go to iTunes, and then in iTunes you can search by category, right? So you find a category. Okay, here's category. I'm going to business, or I'm going to health, you know, and the category, subcategory. You go in there, and it shows you here in this category. Here's the top 200 podcasts. Okay, it's the most simple way to find the Dream 100. List those people out here, at least the top 100, maybe top 200. Now you got your podcast, right? Then pick another platform. It could be Instagram, it could be YouTube, it could be TikTok, it could be Clubhouse. I don't care. Pick the platforms that you like, and I would keep doing this. For me, I go through every single platform I can find. Okay, for you, I'd make sure you do at least 2. Worst case, do Facebook and podcasts. If you want to do more, I would do more as well. And you're gonna notice there's a lot of crossover. Okay, people have big Facebook audience. A lot of time have big Instagram audiences, things like that. And that's okay. I'm trying to build this list out to know who am I going to target, who's already congregated my dream customers, where are these streams of traffic already at, so I know where to throw my fishing pole in at. Okay. So that's the first part, is identifying all those things. Okay, number 2 is hook, story, offer. I want you guys thinking about this for your stuff, right? Think about, pretend like you just landed a podcast thing, right? And you know, I've got the $7 framework I'm selling over here. So you know what your offer is, right? Okay, now what's the story that we told yesterday about why this is so cool? What's the story you could tell on a podcast interview that's going to increase the perceived value of that offer, but it's an exciting story that's got, you know, all the dynamics we talked about yesterday. You've got the hero story and who they, you know, the journey, the journey of transformation, the journey of achievement, like all these things, right? Like what's the story you can tell to help sell that offer? And then come back here. Now, each story has a whole bunch of hooks, right? If you guys watched Jim's video yesterday from the cruise, he talked about this, right? In every story, there's like 10, 20, 30 hooks you can pull out. So what are a bunch of different hooks you could use to get people's attention to listen to this story so you can make this offer? Okay. Now this obviously is a little one-time spreadsheet, but I do this all the time in our business. Okay. Literally, like when we did the 5-day lead challenge. So the 5-day lead challenge was the offer, right? I want the people to go through the challenge. Okay, and then back here, it's like, what's the story to get people coming in, right? We had a story figured out. And then I figured out hooks. What are the hooks going to be? And so if you saw any of the ads, literally after I was like, I need some hooks for the landing page. So we had my whiteboard up here, a bunch of sticky notes on it, and we sat here for probably, an hour, 2 hours, gathering tons of hooks. Okay, hooks were pictures of me like pointing at the board, looking down at the board, smiling at the board, videos of me like, swipe up and get this thing, and like doing all these things. Like I recorded probably, 20, 30, 40 different hooks right then at that moment to be able to use for advertising to get people's attention, right? We had a whole bunch of different headlines, a whole bunch of different things. Like we're always creating tons of hooks that we can use to throw out there because I have no idea which one of these hooks is going to grab people, right? I'm not a big fisherman, but I know that if you put the wrong bait on a hook, only certain fish will eat that bait, right? So it's like, that bait didn't work. Throw out another bait, throw out another bait. A lot of times we'll throw out 10, 20, 30 different hooks before you find one that hooks them, and you're like, okay, that's the sweet spot. We figured it out. Okay, so it's creating a lot of hooks. So I want you to start thinking about this. Like, here's your offer. What's the story that sells the offer? What are different hooks you can throw out? Hooks could be headlines, could be pictures, could be images, could be videos, could be all the different content that Rachel talked about in week number 1, right? And so that's your assignment for today is kind of go through those things. A couple other things. Jim Edwards did an amazing training today on the hook story offer secrets, right? And how to use these things for your ads, for your funnels, for your emails, for your Dream 100. So if you want to go deeper into this, make sure you watch Jim's video. He's got some cool scripts for you to help automate this process as well. It's exciting. And then also, for any of you guys who I want to go deeper into Dream 100, go deeper into these concepts, that's the Traffic Secrets book. I spent 1.5 years of my life writing Traffic Secrets book. If you want to get a copy of that, it's free plus shipping, obviously. But that book's got tons of stuff about hook story offer, about Dream 100. Like the first third of the book is all going deep into the Dream 100 concept, how to find them, how to, all that kind of stuff, okay? And then while you're there, you might as well just get the entire trilogy because, come on now, if you don't have this point, you must hate money. That's the only thing that makes logical sense, right? Anyway, so that's kind of the game plan for today. So there's the one-pager. I'll have my team drop the link down below right now. And that's where you can go get it for day number 19. With that said, you guys use this weekend wisely. Tomorrow I'll send out a one-pager that has all the videos from this week, so you can go back and review things if you need them. It'll have all the strategy videos of me here on stage. But use this weekend wisely. Get your projects done. Create your courses. Create your content. Get things plugged in. Get your sales videos created. Get the funnel done. Start building your Dream 100. Try to get all these pieces done in place because, as you know, we're not stopping. We're moving things forward. And next week, we're going to start getting deeper into actual traffic, okay? The last 2 days, I was trying to give you more strategy of how to do a story, strategy of hook story offer, strategy of Dream 100. Monday, we're going to be clicking buttons that will get people to start coming into your funnels with Rachel. So she's going to be back here. She's going to be here Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday with you guys, which I'm so excited for. She's an amazing trainer. As you guys know, you guys met her week number 1. She'll be back now with 3 more days of amazingness for you guys. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for you guys to have a chance to spend time with her. And then next week, we got Thursday and Friday. I got some cool wrap-up stuff, some things. And at that point, you guys will be towards the end of the One Funnel Away Challenge, which is crazy. I feel like we just got started, but I also feel like we've been doing this for the last 20 years. So I'm sure you guys feel the same way. But I hope you got a ton of value from it so far. Hopefully these things are working in your head. I know for a lot of you guys, especially if it's your first time hearing a lot of these principles, it's kind of confusing at first, right? I had a friend who 3 years ago first came into my world, and she went through all the stuff. And she's like, first time I went through it, she was like, so much was over my head. And I was grabbing some things, but it was a lot. And she's like, next time I went through it, I started understanding a little better. Third time a little bit better. And she's like, now I'm 3 years in. She's like, everything you say, I'm able to catch it and plug it into my funnel because I know exactly how things fit. And so if you feel a little bit overwhelmed, don't stress. It's okay. It happens to everybody. Okay? This is a game of repetition. Every time you learn it, every time you read it, every time you go back through it, you start understanding it at a deeper level. Okay? That's why it's important to do One Funnel Away Challenge. Go and read the .com Secrets book. Read the Expert Secrets book. Read the Traffic Secrets book. You're going to be learning these things from different insights, different ways. And as you keep learning them, that's when these things become crystallized. And you're like, oh my gosh, now I know how this piece works, how this piece works. And it becomes so much more easy to do that. So with that said, you guys, thanks again. Again, the link for today's one-pager should be down below. If you had a good time on this training, let me know in the comments down below. Look for email tomorrow with the one-pager, and I will see you guys again on Monday. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you guys soon.